interesting you mentioned this divide between Marcos and former President Duterte because I'm going to get some of the details wrong, I think, but information just came out about the POGOs, the Filipino offshore gambling operations, and some connections between that and Duterte.
Correct.
To an extent, kind of making it seem like maybe Duterte was a little more involved with the CCP than might have been known.
I have heard that. What I do know on that point, Chris, is that the explosion of these offshore gambling operations in the Philippines occurred under the Duterte administration, under the theory that they would generate revenue for the Philippine government. And that revenue has been very modest. But your question goes to the extent that the former president, Rodrigo Duterte, was actually involved in these pogos, and I don't have any evidence of that. I don't know the answer to that question. What I do know is that those um, overseas gambling operations really brought in the dirty underside of China's criminal activities. They brought in not only the gambling, but all kinds of scams, human trafficking, and certainly on the espionage side of things. And in some sense, they are related to the discovery over the last year of at least three weapons caches that I'm aware of around Metro Manila. And these weapons caches involved the capture of not only small arms, but of PLA uniforms, and some of them even had the term reconnaissance team on the badge there. So there is a nasty connection on the espionage as well as on the criminal side. But insofar as Duterte personally being engaged with those, I don't know. Um, I will add one interesting piece. In the mouth of the harbor of Manila Bay, there is an island, and that island is very near the Sangley Point or Cavite naval base. And that island is now called Pogo Island. And it was formerly owned by the Ramilla family, and they sold it to Chinese SOE, which operates this massive Pogo operation there. And Marcos has declared in this State of the Nation speech on Monday that these Pogo operations are no longer welcome in the Philippines, and he wants the personnel all out by the end of the year.
So a couple things to clarify about these pogos. So they're bringing in all this crime, right, and the human trafficking and
Right.
Other types of. So, but you also said that it was an SOE, so state-owned enterprise from China that owns at least one of these.
Yes.
So this is not like Chinese gangs setting up these things on their own.
No.
Like there's a very clear connection between China and its, with the PLA uniforms. I mean, this is like a very serious infiltration by the Chinese Communist Party into getting its boots on the ground in the Philippines.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct, Matt. And this infiltration into the Philippines in through these pogos and the arms weapons caches, it's let me put it this way: comparing the Philippines and the United States, at least the Philippines is trying to protect their borders. They may be doing a very ineffective job, but this is not related to your show, but we have essentially the same problems starting in the United States here with Chinese nationals, young men of military age, physically fit, crossing our own border. And you can, if you go to downtown Manila and you go to one of the main casinos, you'll notice a number of rather unusually fit individuals who are operating blackjack tables. So, I mean, it is a penetration infiltration problem. You are exactly right.
So it was funny because I saw that actually China had officially at least praised Marcos for cracking down on these POGOs. Like what's going on there?
Well, what's going to happen is kind of like the drug trade, the various drug manufacturing operations owned by the PLA in Guangdong province, is that China wants to divorce itself from this ugly, dirty underside of criminal activity, and gambling has been outlawed in the People's Republic of China. And so the last thing China needs, Matt, is more humiliation at the hands of the Philippines. And so they're going to jump on the bandwagon and say, yes, yes, this is bad stuff.
That are state-owned enterprises involved in.
Yes.
Now, so far, the Philippines has not requested U.S. help in dealing with the CCP. Why is that?
Well, okay. Let me back up one quick second. I believe that the United States has offered assistance. The reason I say that is Jake Sullivan made the comment at the recent Aspen event, and General Bronner has said the United States has offered assistance. And I know that the United States has been engaged in some fashion in some type of planning for what do they do with the Sierra Madre, what are they going to do with a Union Shoal, and so forth. But the reason that the Philippines has not taken the United States up on this is, first of all, we don't know how sincere that offer is. And the Philippine leadership, of course, is very concerned about the United States not being able to fulfill its commitments or promises. So they're loath to put the issue on the table squarely and find out that they were wrong and the United States is not going to back them up. But I think, Chris, the short answer to that question really comes down to a matter of pride, in the sense that the Philippines is now in the minds of the leadership, becoming or has become a middle power. And they want to try to exhaust every possible option on handling this problem themselves without relying on the United States. Because remember, if the United States gets involved, then it adds political fire to some of the opposition forces to Marcos, who say that, now you got the United States involved, now we're a bigger target, and, this is worsening the situation.
I also think I remember in the last podcast you were saying that there's actually a lot the U.S. could learn from the Philippines in dealing with China. It's not that the Philippines is some damsel in distress that needs the U.S. to come and swoop in and save them from the CCP.
Yes, although I would say that precise description has not been used by Indo-PACOM here in Hawaii, but it is the attitude, I think, that we see many in our military and the State Department, that the Philippines is absolutely got to have the United States there. My perception and understanding, as we discussed in previous shows, is that the Philippine military is very well trained, and they are increasingly well equipped. They are getting more modern equipment, and they are used to being in the fight. And so this is becoming an increasingly difficult problem for China.
So this week, Secretary of State Antony Blinken is off to Asia, and that will include a visit to the Philippines. What do you think the significance of this trip is?
I think it's to do two things. One is to get an understanding of what is the deal you Philippines cut with China anyway. Let us understand what that is. The second thing is, I think Blinken is going to do the standard, uh, you know, we're going to be there shoulder to shoulder. He'll issue, comrades in arms type blood brothers reassurance for the Philippines. I think the problem that Blinken has is that increasingly over time his credibility is becoming watered down.
And so then I guess big picture with this agreement, obviously, whatever was in the agreement, it did not solve the territorial dispute
Oh,
between China and the
absolutely,
Philippines.
absolutely not.
Just what do you think is next? And
Well,
is there a way to actually solve it?
I think what's coming next is uh, the question in my mind, Chris, is whether the Philippines in that agreement is sufficiently comfortable, which I doubt they are, that it will stave off the filing of a second arbitration. And I think this is one of the things that China is scared to death over is the Philippines goes back into litigation, whether it's with the International Court with The Hague or in a private litigation maybe in the Philippine courts having to do with environmental degradation, seeking monetary damages.